Oh no, my intro music didn't play. Now I feel so out of place here. Mark Wagner here, DentalBytes. How are you doing? I feel like I've got my shoes on the wrong feet today. I don't know. We're midsummer here when this is being recorded. I've got 2 kids at home, and it's a juggle. It's a juggle in between getting kids to camp, tons of projects on the go, but it's really exciting times. I hope everybody out there is in a good state, enjoying their summer so far. My guest coming on with me today, this is his 3rd time on the show. 3rd time. I think he was even on like the 3rd episode. So he's a veteran to DentalBytes here. And without further ado, let's just bring him on here. Jim Doyle. I was going to call you Dr. Jim Doyle for a second there, but I didn't. IG Wealth Management. How you doing? It's good to see you. How are things in your neck of the woods? We talked about like if it's possible to slow down the rotation of the Earth, to slow down or to increase the number of hours in the day. Is it a busy time for you these days?
We are phenomenally busy. Okay, both professionally and what's going on in our personal lives. Just a lot of stuff going, and like you said, not enough hours sometimes in the day.
Yeah. What's occupying your time these days? What's sort of new and top of mind that you're making sure that all your clients are in the wares of?
Well, I think I'm going to put it this way, and this is my observation. I think anxiety is climbing a little bit. We're pleasantly surprised how well investments have done in spite of everything that's going on out there, and it's kind of like people are waiting for the other shoe to fall.
Yeah, my mom has had her place on the market for probably close to 8 months, and she's only had one offer.
Ouch.
So it's really interesting times out there. What are your key things that are contributing to that? Like, is it people afraid to make big purchases right now? Like, what's in your professional opinion? What is the root of that anxiety?
Probably top on the list is what we call the policy fog. What's coming out on the geopolitical side of the picture, and there's economic uncertainty, or there may be economic uncertainty. And it's that unknowing that are just having people to pause button a little bit.
What are you telling folks are like to soothe their feathers? Is there certain strategies that you're deploying? Is there just sort of just relax? We go through phases. Like how are you preparing? What are you saying to your clients?
That's a great question. I think all of us are like race car drivers. We need to navigate the turns that are coming up and drive on the straight and narrow. But if you're only going to focus on what's right in front of the windshield, you're going to miss the turn, you're going to miss the straights, and of course you're not going to finish the way that you want to finish. So the real challenge is having a longer term focus, not today's noise.
I agree, and I think. Do you agree with this? Like, I think a lot of folks, and I've talked about this a lot over the last little while. There's been some, the Dentist on Demand families experienced some loss, and it's been tough times. Like, do we always hold the carrot in front of us in terms of I'll be happy in X amount of years when? How do we best, from your perspective, from like a planning perspective, enjoy things a little bit better? And and obviously that could be coming to make sure coming to Jim and talking about finances and making sure everything's in line too. Like, what are you seeing key contributors to the anxiety in terms of like that front for people?
Well, I think the number one anxiety for most people is running out of money in retirement. It doesn't matter how much you make. It's an issue of maintaining a standard of living and never wanting to give that up. There's a fair bit of anxiety out there.
And to be comfortable, how much do we got to save? And let's go down this path. This is your specialty. What is in terms of percentage wise of money coming in? What should we be storing away? And how do we eliminate the the temptation from tapping into that like before it's time.
Well, I think one of the things is a lot of people want rules of thumb. They want an easy path. Do this, then that. Okay, and I think rules of thumb, particularly in the dental community, can be extremely dangerous when we talk about savings rates. Okay, so let me elaborate a little bit. If you take a look at the rule of thumb, say you should save 10% of what you make. Okay, now those numbers are predicated on the average person getting CPP and OAS as part of the retirement incomes. But as your income continues to elevate and you make more and more, there's less relevance on CPP and OAS. And as a result, savings rates for a higher income peoples probably should be higher than the 10% figure. And I know them's going to be fighting words with a lot of folks that are going, well, I don't want to save so much.
Is there any any benefit to like maybe reverse engineering where you would how you would see enjoying your life in your retirement, like and then determining from there what it would take to achieve that sort of that lifestyle? Like it really is about lifestyle, isn't it? Like to maintain your lifestyle after you hang up the mitts. What would you say percentage wise of, we'll just say, the dental community, how much of us, like, are we saving? Are we doing a good job from what you've seen?
I think there's a public perception of what we call rich dentists. Okay, and there are certainly a good number of them, but it is not the norm. If you're spending a lot of what you make on consumptive lifestyle, you get the nice house, you have the nice car, you take some awesome trips, and you're thinking, well, I'll get serious about this saving stuff somewhere else down the road. Chances are that's probably going to have you having less and maybe a different lifestyle that you envisioned for retirement.
I don't think people really we're not conscious of it most days. I think like what can we put in place so that we can rest assured that we're good to be good in the future? Like, is that maxing out our RSPs? Is it utilizing a tax-free savings, like, or a combination of all of the above, just to keep it clean? You know what I mean? What's your course of action on that front?
Well, I'm going to go messy on this.
Love it.
And the reason being, I think there's financial security, okay, which is the numbers side of the picture, and that's what everybody thinks that planning is all about. But really what is missing, okay, and it's missing in a big way, okay, is what are you going to do with your time when you hit retirement?
Mm-hmm.
You have big money, okay, you end up traveling or you end up golfing, okay. I don't know anybody who can golf 5 days a week, unless your name is Earl, okay, but there are a few people out there, that look at this and say, okay, well, what about traveling? Okay, how much traveling can you take on before you get tired of airports and you just want a little bit more stability or familiarity in terms of your circumstances?
Yeah.
So we don't really anticipate how we're going to use our time, what our typical day is going to be, who we're going to spend it with. Okay, and then your finances are the means by which you make all of that accomplish. So
Right.
I think there's a gap.
And then obviously, the unforeseen things too, health-wise, and whether you're able to enjoy such things based on, just your ability to do so. And I guess, getting tired of the travel piece, like, how much does it take to just feel wealthy too? We've got like $1 million doesn't seem like that much money anymore. Why does it, like, what does it take?
Great question. Charles Schwab just came out with a study last week, so this is pretty fresh, and they were talking about what it takes to feel financially comfortable, and I think the figure was just over 800,000. But then they brought up the question of what does it take to feel rich, okay? And they said 2.3 million. And you go, that's a fair bit of money. And then they asked, well, why do you think that number needs to be at that level? And they said, a big part of where the anxiety has been coming from is the rising interest rates make life a ton bit more expensive.
Yeah.
And inflation has kind of been nibbling away in some very serious ways, and it brings
Mhm.
that confidence down that we're on the right path. So we feel you need more just to sustain it.
The cost of like it's crazy. It really is like it seems like the dollar is not it's worth almost half that it used to be. Like it's wild. Like um, how do we protect ourselves from that? Even like that's just kind of a variable that's completely out of our control.
If you look at Canadian millionaires, we're birthing them every single day. Okay. And a lot of them made their money off real estate. So
Yeah.
you got into a place, you did nothing, it became worth a whole lot more. Okay. But what do you do with that? If you've got a place that's worth a million, you've got $100,000 in investments. Okay. You probably don't have financial security. That $1 million home, is great for people that are going to inherit, but that doesn't pay you an income. It doesn't support your standard of living.
Yeah.
So there's uncomfort issues out there.
And it really is relative too, right? Like, like I'll just speak to my mom. She's going to downsize, but she's only going to pocket like she's going to sell the place for 1.8, but she's going to downsize and only pocket 200 of that, right? Like it's you're right. Like the downlines, the children get to benefit from that. And when does that bubble burst too? Like, we're seeing this generational wealth. Does that evaporate at some point? With the rising costs of everything.
It's interesting when you bring up this question because I'm going to filter it through something that might surprise people. It has a little bit to do with culture. Okay, what is your culture? What are your values around money and so forth?
Right.
So, for those that are typically not born in Canada, there might be a higher orientation towards helping the kids out. And that's not only while they're around, but into the future. And it has a significant impact on the parents in terms of what their retirement can potentially look like. So,
Um,
if you're
yeah.
thinking you're going to be helping the kids out buy a home, that's going to dent your resources.
Yeah, no kidding. Not to mention the cost to live in this town. I worry about my kids. I really do. It seems like a moving target that's accelerating. Even for myself, like living in this city. You look at other markets, and when you see the price of some of these places, it's. I was you were up in Seashell too. We live in the most beautiful place on the planet. Is it becoming out of reach?
I was watching a bit of the news last night, and we were talking about the gift cards in Richmond. One of the things that they brought up was how property taxes, for the past 3 years, have gone up about north of 5.5%. When you look at the major expenses that are considered in that basket of goods, when they talk about CPI or inflation, quite often property taxes aren't part of that. But it
Yeah,
is one of the biggest expenses that's been growing astronomically over the past several years.
eight grand this year. Like for myself. What? That's a really nice trip somewhere. Come on. And then you hope that
Yes.
they're spending these things on the right things, and that is a slippery slope of a conversation down that route. Um, like how much when it comes to money and investing, how much should we like keep our emotional side out of it too?
I'm glad you go there because when I talk to people and I say, are emotions part of your financial consideration? They go, Jim, I don't have emotions in my investments. I go, are you sure? Okay. Let me talk to you about something called FOMO, which is fear of missing out. Okay. How many people look back on their past history and say, yeah, I wish Tesla had been part of my story, or pick another favorite stock that you might have. So there's that element. Then there's the flip side of that, and this is what we're experiencing in today's market, and it's FOGI, which is FOGI, which is fear of getting in.
Ah,
And we go back to that race car analogy, windshield right there, okay? Instead of saying, hey, listen, I'm not investing for today or tomorrow. I'm investing for 15, 20 years down the road. And whatever's going on in today's market is probably irrelevant, but it feels super important today. And the challenge is, how do I give them a wee bit of nudge to get a bit of action in terms of looking at this stuff?
what has been like historically the most bulletproof strategy? You mentioned real estate, obviously. Um, is it betting safe? Is it diversification? In your opinion, what has been in your mind's eye the most fruitful pathway?
It's going to be an interesting response because it's going to be different for everybody. Okay. What drives you? How did you get here? What sort of investment baggage and history are you bringing into your equation? Um, Having a ton of money but feeling super anxious all the time, is very different than someone who is looking for phenomenal returns and just doesn't feel rewarded unless they get the bigger numbers.
Right.
I think when we talk about diversification in today's market, if you walk away with anything today, that is the most important message that I want to get across to investors is diversification. Okay, diversification, diversification.
I mean, also too, I'm tooting your horn here too, like for the obvious reasons. How important is it to have somebody in your corner with the pulse on everything, and it's their job on a day to day to watch the markets, to see the trends, to get a few steps ahead of it. Dollar wise, missing out in some cases, in terms of weeks or months. And like if we're talking investment, what does that translate into dollar wise if you're not, like, if you don't have the read on things properly?
I never want to claim any special ability to foretell the future. Okay.
Yeah.
My crystal
Don't
ball
you
is
don't
all
you guys
cloudy.
have you guys have crystal balls somewhere in your office, right?
We do, but they're there for decoration. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Truth is having a plan, sticking to the plan. Okay. They sound boring as can be. Okay, but that's the real power. Okay, having someone looking over your shoulder, is incredibly valuable. Yet most people can't put a dollar value to it. We know there's folks in the do-it-yourself camp, that are going, I like the chase. You take that away from me, and it's like they feel less rewarded in life. We also come to the point where it's like, what are you missing? What's the value of behavioral coaching? So when you're inclined to, want to pull out of the market or chase an investment that may not necessarily be appropriate for your long-term consideration, again, what's the value of behavioral coaching? What's the
Right.
value of wealth transfer strategies? That say, I built up all these resources so that I can give my kids a better life. How important is that goes in the right way and you have as much of it going where you want, how you want?
Effectively, they're paying to have like a dad in their corner, right? I'm just
Exactly.
kidding. Guidelines are so important when it comes to this stuff. In those moments, like, I think people, a lot of people, and I think that's why a lot of people have a ton of credit card debt, is spending money on things is sort of a, it's that dopamine, and everything's so accessible, like if we're purchasing something online, you can buy a car online now that, they deliver it to your house the next day and take your old, sell your old car that way. It's kind of a dangerous world when it comes to that. It just the the consumer culture that we live in, right? Is that part of your advice? Is like you have X amount of dollars to spend on the fun stuff? Are you budgeting with people, or like what when it comes to your services? Like what are folks paying for?
I think one of our biggest challenges is what do you want your money to do for you? Okay, it can't be simply a number, because a number is not a relevant issue when you start talking about inflation, and you start talking about comfort, and you start talking about the importance of giving the kids a hand up. Okay, those are nice, but we want to talk about the whys and the hows. Okay, and the fact that life interrupts from time to time, taking us off track in unintended ways. Um, those are really valid considerations. So when someone comes to us and we say, well, what does your vision of the future look like? Let's be on this journey together, so that we have an idea of how much risk you might need to take to ultimately get there. I'm going to say something that might disturb people a little bit, but I think we've had the past decade, maybe decade and a half, where it was easy to make money. And I think going forward, I think it's going to require a bit of a different mindset. And maybe instead of chasing returns, maybe a lot more focus on managing risk.
Right, right. How hard is that going to be for some people, though? Like now you're talking in lines of habits, right? Like, in your opinion, what's the best way for somebody to break those habits and relinquish some of those those dopamine hit needs? Like, what's a winning strategy there? Is it a limitation on access to the funds? Like, how does it work best on that front?
People hate the idea of living in a budget.
Yeah.
Okay? So when we define financial priorities, we say, okay, is this a priority or is this not a priority? So how much do you need to commit, to that sort of element, and how much is left over to spend freely?
Right.
So there has to be some fun in there.
Got to live, right? Got to live.
Precisely. Okay.
Yeah.
We've seen folks buy really big houses, okay, and they live for their house. And I'm going, You can do that for the short term, but you can't do it long term. I really want to offer the perspective, tailor something for your situation, not for your neighbors, not for your peers, okay? Tailor it for your situation, okay? Not everybody wears the same size shoe or the same design, okay? Your money shouldn't be that you're trying to look the same as your neighbor, okay? So I'm saying this in an indirect way, I think.
It's a lot to think about, really, and it's thinking about things really seriously, and we don't have the crystal ball, right? So it's tough. It's tough when you see. Here's the thing, which also drives that sort of that FOMO for it in terms of like the lifestyle thing. We see all these other people doing things, and they always show the front-facing best things. Always, like, I think the true value of having somebody like yourself in the corner is like you're the voice of logic and reason, right? Would you agree with that?
Well, it's a touch point. It's putting perspective or shape on things. So let's pretend to look into the future a little bit and ask what happens if inflation happens to be a bit stubborn and a bit higher. We're probably going to see interest rates go up. So what does that do if you're somebody who's renewing their mortgage in the next couple of years? You had a 1.94 and now you're renewing at 4.25, whatever the case might be. That's a reality that's coming. And what happens if rates sneak a little higher than that? Now we talk about trade-offs and priorities, and what sort of things are we going to be doing that's different than today. You financed a practice, you financed your home, you might be financing cars and stuff like that. The use of credit and debt, a significant lifestyle adjuster, if not looked at from a larger perspective.
The true variables are the people too, right? Like how much of the conversation comes into ensuring that the kids are set up and all that great stuff too. Like even like for education and things like that coming up. Personally, right? I'm terrible. Like I'm the village idiot when it comes to this type of stuff. So it's so important. Like I see it on a day-to-day, and I see conversations that professionals like yourself are having with these people, and sometimes they're not fun. Is there anything? Is there bright light in the future when it comes to all this stuff? Are there is there positives that you're seeing, and like on any front that people should be aware of when it comes to things that you deal with on a day-to-day?
I think one of the beauties is that, for a lot of the dentists, they've got really good income coming in. So there's a lot of beautiful things that you can do with income. Now, the challenge that I've sometimes got is, we meet with a lot of dentists, and they're scientifically brained. Okay, so they look at this money stuff and they go, "I got it." Okay, and then maybe we have to shine a bit of a light on some areas where there's some gaps and stuff like that. So I would like to offer a perspective for dentists. Take a little pressure off of your shoulders. Okay, you know what you know, and you know it well. Okay, what you don't know, get somebody to give you some pointers on maybe.
I think I know somebody. What would be the best way, Jim, to get in touch with you and your team?
Email is great. Obviously interested in having conversations, an opportunity to see what we're about. Get in touch on the second.
There it is. There it is. Book a meeting. We want to book a meeting. And there we go. Awesome. So you, my friend, you're off to Africa. Man, that's going to be such a fun trip. That's what countries are you going to?
First and foremost, we're joining a bunch of people from VDDS. So we're off to Kenya, Tanzania, and Zanzibar.
Amazing. And what's the mission there? What's like the ultimate goal on that front? Do you have the nicest camera? You're gonna shoot some safari pictures. What's the plan? What's the dream?
Well, I might do a bit of ballooning to see the migration.
Oh.
My girlfriend's not comfortable with heights. To tell the truth, neither am I. But I'd rather still get the pictures.
I got some news for you, Jim. A balloon's probably not the best bet for that then. Awesome. Yeah, like from that perspective, that would be absolutely breathtaking, I'm sure. I'm just imagining it right now. That's amazing. What else is going on in your life this summer? Are you taking any more time?
I'm a boater at heart. I am happy every day that I'm on the water in some way, shape, or form. If I could live there 24/7, I might like that too.
Yeah.
There's just something about being on the water that is so calming and recharging for me. I can't describe it in any other way.
Yeah, what do you own? The best boat to own is somebody else's. I've heard that financial advice before. Do you have a boat or a sailboat? What's boating for you?
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a water skier at heart.
Awesome.
I've got a tournament ski boat.
Oh wow.
Brother-in-law has a 34-foot Sea Ray, so when they need to go big and go for longer trips, that's a nice option. We got a little sailboat, so I love to get up to Harrison in the afternoons when the winds are big.
Yeah.
So it's all fun for me.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of being on a sailboat with some friends. Just north of Seashelt up the Sunshine Coast, and my God, we live in like I said it earlier, we live in the most beautiful place on the earth. Like just putting around some of the islands there, and wow, just breathtaking. Yeah, I agree. Like being on the water is it's something else.
Could spend a lot of time there
and money. Right, Jim. This has been fantastic. Thanks for giving me some of your time. Again, this is your third time on the show, and I think that puts you in the lead. So thanks for being a huge supporter of us, and we're obviously huge supporters of you too. And just to remind the folks of how to get in touch. just head on to the website. I'll put it in the show notes so that people have the link. Go to the Get in Touch icon and look. You have some options. Look at this. When's the best time to meet? So make sure you reach out to Jim and his team. When time is of the essence when it comes to this conversation, isn't it? Like the more time you leave these conversations, the more opportunity you're leaving off the table. So, maybe taking words out of your mouth there, Jim. But any sort of final impactful thoughts that you can leave us with?
I know everybody wants a 5-minute solution to making the financial world a whole lot better. But sometimes, like exercise, a little bit of investment on a regular basis yields the most results. Just a thought.
Yeah, I've seen the charts of the exponential, it's fun to look at when it's on your side, right? Yeah, and it's again, like if you find a time machine or a crystal ball, just let me know. I'll head back to the mid 1990s and put some money down on Apple, right?
And I'll offer one more thought as well. Most people have professionals in their sphere. They've got an accountant, they've got a lawyer, maybe they've got an insurance guy, maybe an investment guy. Okay, consider upping the game a little bit by getting your professionals to talk to each other and come up with collaborative solutions. I think there's too much of a silo approach with professionals that they'll deal with the stuff that's only in their circle. And I'm going, there's so much more that can be achieved if you can bring these minds to bear on your situation and say, well, here's 3 or 4 ways that you might want to consider, or here's some hiccups that come as a result of that particular strategy that will influence you in other ways and may ultimately cause a different course of action.
Yeah, Jim, that's a beautiful thing too. That's a language that these folks understand in this dental community too. When it comes to, the different specialties, talking together and collaborating on a patient. So that's they'll understand that one for sure. Again, Jim, this has been an absolute pleasure as always. And man, oh man, I look forward to seeing some of these balloon pictures that you're going to be taking here. So when you get back, we should go grab a coffee or a lunch at some point.
That sounds beautiful. I'll only have about 2,000 pictures to share.
Perfect. I love it. I love pictures. I'm a visual guy, so that'll be great. Enjoy, my friend, and we'll chat soon.
Appreciate being able to share. Thank you for your time.
Anytime.